AITA for refusing to change my wedding date because it's the anniversary of my fiancé's sister's death. I, 28F, am getting married to my fiancé, Luke, 29M, in January. We've been together for 5 years and engaged for a little over a year now. Our relationship has been amazing, and I genuinely love him with all my heart. We've spent the last year planning the wedding of our dreams. A cozy winter ceremony at this beautiful lodge in the mountains that books out over a year in advance. The venue, photographer, and caterer were all booked, paid for, and finalized by March. Here's the problem. The date of our wedding is January 14th. Luke's older sister, Rachel, passed away 5 years ago on that same day in a car accident. I knew this early on in our relationship. Luke was very close to her and understandably still carries a lot of grief. I never met her, but from everything I've heard, she was a beautiful person, kind, fiercely protective of her little brother, and the life of the party. When we were choosing our wedding date, we picked January 14th because it was the only Saturday in January the venue had available. January is meaningful to us because it's the month we met and we wanted a winter wedding. We were both aware it was the anniversary of Rachel's death, and I asked Luke several times if he was okay with it. He said, and I quote, "I think she'd actually love that. It'll give that day a new meaning." I made him promise he was sure, and he was. He even told his parents with me, and while they were quiet about it, they didn't protest. His mom teared up and said, "Rachel would have loved to see you two get married." So we moved forward. Like I said, the planning went smoothly. No one said anything else about the date for months. That is, until 2 weeks ago. Luke's parents invited us over for dinner with his extended family, grandparents, aunts, cousins, etc. At some point, the topic of the wedding came up, and his cousin Megan, 34F, asked when exactly it was. I said January 14th, and there was this sudden, awkward silence. Then his aunt, Rachel's godmother, said, "We're getting married on Rachel's day?" I said, carefully, that yes, we'd spoken about it, and felt she would have wanted it to be a happy day again. She just nodded stiffly. Later that night, Luke's mom pulled me aside and asked me to consider changing the date. She said it was deeply hurtful for the family and that it felt like we were trying to overwrite Rachel's memory. I reminded her we had discussed it months ago and no one had objected, and she said they didn't want to cause tension but assumed we'd change it eventually. Luke, to his credit, backed me up and told his mom we weren't changing it. But since then, it's been nonstop calls and messages from his family. Megan even posted something vague on Facebook about people who forget their dead siblings for catered chicken and party favors, which was clearly aimed at Luke. Then his younger brother, Jason, texted me saying I'm being selfish and that I could have any day in the year, so why did I have to pick that one? I responded with a polite message explaining it was the only Saturday available and that Luke had agreed to it. He left me on read and hasn't spoken to me since. Last weekend, Luke's parents called and said they've decided not to attend the wedding. They can't watch their son desecrate their daughter's memory. That hit me like a truck. I was honestly heartbroken, and for the first time, I asked Luke if we should change the date. But he said no. He still felt like Rachel would understand and be happy for us. He also said he thinks his parents are using Rachel as a way to control his life, something he's hinted at before but never really elaborated on. Now, though, I'm getting cold feet. Not about marrying Luke, never about that, but about the date. My parents are worried that we're starting our marriage off with a black cloud hanging over it. My maid of honor told me she'd support me either way but thinks it's a bit tone-deaf not to change it now that we know how hurt the family is. A couple of my friends have said they'd be upset too if someone got married on the anniversary of their sibling's death. I understand where they're coming from, truly, but I also feel like, isn't the whole point of healing to find new meaning in pain? We've planned this wedding for over a year. We've paid deposits we can't get back, and I've already bought my dress, arranged travel for guests, and locked in a honeymoon. Changing the date now would cost thousands, and we'd have to wait another year for the venue we want. Plus, this is Luke's sister. If he's okay with it, why is everyone else so angry? Still, it's starting to eat away at me. I don't want to be the woman who stomped all over a family's grief just to get married when it suited her. But I also don't want to cave to pressure and spend the next year redoing everything. Or worse, feel like our marriage started with someone else's shadow looming over it. So, AITA for refusing to change our wedding date, even though it's the anniversary of my fiance's sister's death. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids call me mom. I, 31F, have always been the put-together sibling. I have a stable job, corporate finance, a house I bought on my own 5 years ago, and no kids. I've never wanted children and have been upfront about that since my early 20s. I enjoy being the cool aunt and love spending time with my nieces and nephews, but that's the extent of it. My sister Julia, 36F, has 4 kids, 9M, 7F, 5M, and 2F, and has had a very different life. She had her first child at 27, dropped out of college, married her high school sweetheart, and struggled financially ever since. There's been drama, lost jobs, evictions, and even a CPS investigation a couple of years ago when her oldest was found wandering the neighborhood alone. She's a good person, just overwhelmed and exhausted. Her husband left her 8 months ago and moved across the country. He sent child support, but hasn't seen the kids since. Since then, Julia has leaned heavily on me. I've helped with groceries, babysat during emergencies, and given her money here and there. I've never expected anything back. I don't resent helping her. I get it, she's struggling. But a few weeks ago, things crossed a line. Julia asked if she and the kids could stay with me temporarily because she couldn't afford rent anymore. I hesitated but said yes, on the condition it would be no more than 3 months. My house isn't huge, 3-bed, 2-bath, and I work from home. I knew it would be chaotic, but she's my sister. At first, it was fine. The kids are sweet, if loud, and I understood they were adjusting to a new environment. I child-proofed my home as best I could, stocked up on snacks, and even made a little play area in the backyard. I told Julia she didn't have to pay rent, but asked her to help with utilities and groceries, which she agreed to. Then about 2 weeks in, the weirdness started. Her youngest daughter, Lily, 2F, toddled up to me one morning and said, "Mama." I laughed it off and corrected her gently. Julia was in the kitchen and said nothing. The next day, her 5-year-old came into my office and said, "Mom, can I have a snack?" Again, I said, "I'm not your mom, sweetie. Go ask Mommy." And he pouted and left. I figured it was just confusion from living in a new place. But it kept happening. The kids began calling me Mom more and more, not Auntie, which is what they've called me their whole lives, but Mom. Even the older two, who know better. I brought it up to Julia, and she shrugged and said, "Well, you basically are their mom right now." That rubbed me the wrong way. I told her I wasn't comfortable with it, and she said, "It's just a word." AITA for refusing to give up my grandmother's house to my cousin. Even though she says I don't need it, I, 32F, inherited my grandmother's house 2 years ago when she passed. It was always her wish that I have it. I was her only granddaughter, and we were extremely close. I stayed with her most weekends growing up, especially after my parents divorced. I helped her around the house, took care of her after her surgery in my early 20s, and when she passed, she left me the house outright in her will. It's a small but charming 2-bedroom house in a nice suburban area. It's not a mansion, but it's fully paid off, in good condition, and has a beautiful little garden she and I worked on together. I love it. I moved in right away after she passed, and have been living here ever since. Here's where the drama starts. My cousin Tessa, 28F, is pregnant. She's unmarried. The father is not involved, and she works part-time while going to school. Tessa and I were never close. In fact, she spent most of our teen and young adult years actively mocking me for being grandma's favorite and told anyone who'd listen that I was a suck-up for spending so much time with her. She barely visited our grandmother in her final years. When she found out she was pregnant, there was a big family push to support her. I agree with that. She needs help. I sent her money for baby clothes and supplies. I was happy to do it. But then, last month, my Aunt Tessa's mom called me out of the blue and suggested. Actually, she strongly hinted that I should consider the bigger picture and maybe do something truly selfless by letting Tessa live in my house. I was stunned. I thought she was joking at first. I said, "Wait, you mean temporarily?" And she said, "Well, Tessa really needs stability, and you don't really need all that space for yourself, right? You're single, no kids. It's just you." I told her that wasn't going to happen. I work from home and use the second bedroom as my office. More importantly, it was Grandma's house. She left it to me specifically. I wasn't going to undo her final wishes because Tessa made some poor life choices. That conversation did not go over well. Within a day, my phone blew up. My uncle texted me that I was being selfish. Tessa made a Facebook post, a full-on sob story, about how some people in the family value empty rooms over new life. She didn't name me, but everyone knew. Even my mom, who usually stays out of drama, said that maybe I should consider what Grandma would have wanted if she knew about Tessa's situation. I told her she didn't know Tessa. She knew her very well, and that's probably why she left the house to me. My mom dropped it after that. Then Tessa called me directly. She cried on the phone, saying she didn't feel safe at her current apartment. It's in a rougher neighborhood. That the baby deserves better, and that you have a whole house just for yourself. It's not fair. I told her I was sorry for her situation, but the house isn't up for negotiation. I offered to help her look for subsidized housing or even chip in for a deposit on a better place. She hung up on me. The family divide is now huge. I'm being painted as heartless. Some cousins are on my side, saying inheritance is inheritance and it's not my fault. Others are clearly siding with Tessa, saying I'm prioritizing a dead woman's furniture over a living baby. Yes, someone actually said that. Last week at a family dinner, I finally snapped. Tessa walked in and made a big show of rubbing her stomach and sighing loudly when I sat near her. I asked her, loudly enough for the table to hear, "Do you ever stop to think why Grandma didn't leave the house to you? Or are you too busy guilt-tripping everyone into pitying you for choices you made?" It was like a record scratch. My aunt yelled at me. Tessa burst into tears, and I was told to leave. I left without another word. Now it's even worse. I've been uninvited from Thanksgiving and blocked by several family members. One of my cousins texted me and said that while I legally did nothing wrong, morally I'm being an AH, and Grandma would have wanted us to take care of each other. But I'm trying to help her, just not by giving up my home. I keep going over it in my head. Is it really selfish to not give her the house? Am I wrong for drawing a line? Part of me wonders if I'm so focused on protecting Grandma's legacy that I'm not seeing the human side of things. But then again, would Tessa do the same for me if roles were reversed? Honestly, I doubt it. So, AITA? AITA for not letting my sister and her kids move into the house I inherited, even though she says our mom would have wanted it? I, 36M, inherited my mother's house 2 years ago when she passed from cancer. I was her only caregiver for the last year of her life. She had late-stage breast cancer that spread aggressively. During that time, I moved back to my hometown and basically put my entire life on hold. I took a leave of absence from work. I'm a software engineer, left my apartment, and spent 12 to 14-hour days taking care of her. Bathing, feeding, appointments, meds, everything. She refused a hospice facility because she wanted to die at home, and I promised her I'd make that happen. My sister, 39F, and I were never close, but things got worse in the last 5 years. She's got 3 kids, 15F, 10M, 6M, and lives about 2 hours away. I don't know how to say this nicely. She's always been a bit entitled. She expected a lot from our mom, especially financially. She would visit maybe once every couple of months during the illness, usually just for a few hours and never stayed to help. When I'd ask for assistance, like to just come watch her for an afternoon so I could nap, she'd say she was too busy with the kids or couldn't afford the gas. After our mom passed, I found out she'd rewritten her will about 6 months prior, leaving the house and nearly all her savings to me. She left my sister a small trust for the kids' education, which I thought was fair. I was shocked and even asked the lawyer if it was a mistake. It wasn't. Mom had gone through all the legal steps and made sure everything was clear. Her note to me was short. "You gave up everything for me. I want you to have this so you can build your life again." I kept the house. I still live here now. It's nothing fancy, small 2-bedroom cottage-style place in a quiet neighborhood, but it's home. I've renovated it slowly, put in a little garden, even started dating again. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm rebuilding. Last month, my sister called me crying. Apparently, she's getting evicted from her rental because her landlord is selling the property. She's behind on bills and said she has nowhere to go. She asked if she and the kids could move into the house with me just for a few months while she gets back on her feet. I didn't know what to say at first. I told her I'd think about it. The truth is, the idea immediately gave me anxiety. Our relationship isn't good. She's loud, messy, and dismissive of boundaries. Her kids are, well, they're kids, but they're chaotic. Last time they visited, over a year ago, one of them broke my coffee table, and she just shrugged it off. I barely know them. They don't even call me uncle. I called her back a week later and told her I was really sorry for what she's going through, but I didn't think it would work for me to have them all move in. I offered to send her $2,000 to help with moving expenses or to help secure a new rental. She was quiet at first and then blew up at me. She accused me of being selfish, heartless, and said our mom would be rolling in her grave, knowing I was hoarding the house while her grandkids were potentially going to be homeless. She said Mom only left it to me because she was manipulated while she was sick and that it was meant for the family. That hit hard. I reminded her that Mom made her own decisions, was of sound mind, confirmed legally, and that I sacrificed a year of my life caring for her while she did nothing. She said that didn't give me the right to steal a legacy from her and her kids. Since then, she's rallied some of our extended family against me, mostly people who were never around either. I've gotten texts and Facebook messages calling me greedy and cruel, asking how I can let my niece and nephews be homeless while I live in a house with extra space. I won't lie. It's made me question myself. I'm not using the second bedroom, and I could technically make it work, but it would mean giving up my peace, my space, and frankly, my safety net. I don't trust her to leave after a few months, and I fear it becoming a permanent thing. Also, I don't want to feel like a guest in my own home, but they're family, and I wonder if I'm letting money and property matter more than people. Part of me feels like the villain in a morality tale. Still, I can't ignore how many years she's let me down or how she shows up only when she needs something. So Reddit, AITA for saying no to my sister and refusing to let her and her kids move in, even if it might mean they end up at a shelter. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she accused me of stealing her fiancé. This whole thing started about 6 months ago, and it's been an absolute mess ever since. I'm still trying to process everything, and I honestly don't know if I'm in the wrong or if my sister and her fiancé just lost their minds. So a bit of background. I, 29F, and my sister, 27F, have always had a complicated relationship. We're close in age, but completely different people. I'm more introverted and career-focused, while she's outgoing and very social. We used to be very close growing up, but over the past few years, things have gotten tense, mostly because she's gotten into this crowd that I don't mesh with, and I think she's become a bit judgmental about my lifestyle. We'd still talk occasionally, though, and I always showed up for family events. Now, here's where it gets messy. About 8 months ago, my sister started dating this guy, Mark, 30M. They moved quickly, got engaged after about 6 months. I met him a few times and thought he seemed okay. Nothing special, but not bad either. I didn't feel super connected to him, and honestly, I wasn't super interested since my sister seemed really happy. Fast forward to about 4 months ago, Mark started reaching out to me a lot more. At first, I thought it was because he wanted to get to know my side of the family better, which is fine. But then the messages became more personal, sometimes too personal. He'd ask me about my life, my job, my hobbies, and sometimes drop little comments about how different I am from my sister. I thought it was just him trying to be friendly, so I didn't think much of it. One evening, my sister invited me over to help her plan the wedding. I spent hours there, organizing vendors, guest lists, and so on. Mark was there too, but he mostly kept to himself. After she went to bed, Mark and I ended up chatting in the living room about random stuff. At one point, he asked me if I'd ever thought about what it would be like to be with someone who really got me, someone who understood me in ways my sister didn't. I brushed it off awkwardly, thinking it was some weird joke. Over the next few weeks, the messages from Mark got more frequent and more emotional. He started sharing things about his relationship with my sister, how he felt misunderstood, and how he connected better with me. I felt uncomfortable and told him several times I didn't want to talk about that stuff. He assured me he was just venting and didn't mean anything by it. Then one day, my sister confronted me. She told me she had seen texts from Mark on his phone where he confessed feelings for me and implied that I was encouraging him. I was stunned because I never encouraged anything. I always kept my distance and told him to stop if it ever got inappropriate. My sister accused me of trying to steal her fiancé and ruining her trust. She said she didn't want me anywhere near the wedding or her life. I tried to explain my side, but she refused to listen. Our parents got involved, and suddenly the whole family was divided. Some believe my sister, others think Mark is the one to blame, but the accusation against me stuck. I refused to attend the wedding because I knew it would be toxic for me. I also told my sister she was being unfair by cutting me out without hearing the full story. The wedding happened last weekend without me. I saw some photos online. Mark and my sister looked miserable, and several guests were whispering about the drama. My sister has since blocked me on all social media and hasn't responded to any messages. I'm torn. On one hand, I never wanted to hurt my sister or come between her and Mark. On the other, I don't think I did anything wrong besides maybe being too polite when Mark was oversharing. I try to keep boundaries, but that seems to have backfired. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to go to my sister's wedding after she accused me of stealing her fiancé? Or was I right to protect myself from a situation I didn't create? AITA for telling my sister that she can't bring her kids to my wedding after she made a huge scene about it? This has been an ongoing nightmare for the past few months, and I'm honestly still trying to wrap my head around everything that's happened. I'm 28F, getting married to my fiancé, Matt, 30M, in a few weeks. We've been together for about 5 years, and the wedding planning started last year. We both wanted a small, intimate ceremony with close family and friends. No kids allowed. We agreed on this early because we wanted an adult-only event, mainly because it's a complicated family dynamic, and we thought this would keep things simpler and less stressful. My sister, Rachel, 34F, has 2 kids, an 8-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son. They are wonderful kids, but they do get loud and can be a handful, especially in formal settings. I love my niece and nephew, but the truth is, I don't want to worry about keeping them entertained or handling any chaos on my wedding day. Matt and I both envisioned something peaceful with just adults, so we decided to make the wedding child-free and explicitly stated this on the invitations and our wedding website. Now, Rachel and I have never had the best relationship, but we've always been civil. She's a single mom and very protective of her kids, which I get. I'm also the only sibling who's gotten married, so this was a big deal. When she got the invite and saw the adults-only note, she texted me right away, asking if the kids really couldn't come. I politely explained that we decided on no kids to keep things simple and because we wanted it to be a chance for adults to relax and celebrate without extra distractions. This is where things got ugly. Rachel flipped out. She accused me of being selfish and said I was prioritizing some fancy party over her family. She said it was her day, too, since I was marrying into a family she was part of, and that excluding her kids was a huge insult. I tried to reason with her, saying it wasn't personal, it was just a decision we made for the wedding. I even offered to help arrange childcare or watch the kids for the day, but she said no one would be willing to do that. Things went quiet for a few days, but then Rachel started blowing up my phone with angry texts and calls. She said she was going to show up with the kids anyway, and that if I didn't want to include her children, maybe she wouldn't come at all. Matt was getting really stressed because his family was aware of the situation and was nervous about the potential drama. About 2 weeks before the wedding, Rachel sent me a long message saying that if I truly wanted to have an adult-only wedding, she would respect that, but warned me it would cost me our relationship. She said that excluding her kids was cruel and that I was turning our family into something cold and distant. I was hurt, but I still stuck to my decision because I felt it was our day to have things how we wanted. The final straw came last weekend. Rachel showed up at my parents' house with her 2 kids unannounced. My parents live in the same town and were helping with some last-minute wedding prep. She came storming in, demanded to speak to me, and when I came out, she confronted me in front of everyone. She told me I was being a terrible sister and mother figure to her kids, which is weird because I'm not their mom, and that if I didn't let them come to the wedding, she wouldn't speak to me anymore. I told her firmly that the wedding was still no kids, and that I hoped she would understand and respect our wishes. She yelled back that she couldn't believe I was so heartless and left with the kids. After that, my parents and I had a long talk about the situation. They told me they supported my decision, but also warned me that Rachel might not come to the wedding at all, or that she might make more scenes. Rachel hasn't spoken to me since then. I've gotten some messages from mutual family members asking me if I'm sure I'm doing the right thing, suggesting maybe I should relent for the sake of family peace. I'm worried that this fight is going to ruin not only my relationship with Rachel, but also affect the family dynamic forever. I'm starting to wonder if maybe I was too harsh, or if I should have been more accommodating to her situation, even if it meant some extra stress on my wedding day. But at the same time, this is a day Matt and I dreamed about, and I feel like I have a right to set boundaries. So, AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her kids to my wedding and standing firm despite her reaction? Was I wrong to not compromise here, especially given her circumstances as a single mom? Or was I justified in wanting an adult-only celebration? AITA for refusing to give my sister my wedding venue after she canceled her own last minute and expecting me to just hand mine over? So, this is a bit long, but I really need an outside opinion because my family is split, and honestly, I'm doubting myself. I, 28F, have been engaged to my fiancé, 30M, for about a year now. We've been planning our wedding for over 6 months, and the venue is a huge deal to us. It's a beautiful outdoor garden space that's not only picturesque, but also very exclusive and hard to book, especially during the summer season when we're getting married. We booked it last year, right after getting engaged, because spots fill up fast. My sister, 25F, has been a constant headache when it comes to the wedding planning, but the latest situation is what's really testing me. She's getting married next month, and while we didn't coordinate dates on purpose, her wedding was scheduled for mid-June. Her original venue was this lovely rustic barn that she booked almost a year ago, but about 2 weeks ago, she called me in a panic and said the venue canceled her booking because they double-booked and prioritized another client who apparently paid a higher deposit. Her venue is now unavailable, and she's frantically looking for a new place. Here's where things get messy. Knowing how difficult it was for me to book my venue, she called me and asked if I could possibly let her use my venue instead. She claimed it was the perfect spot, the right size, and she's just desperate because everything else is booked up or outrageously expensive last minute. She also implied that since she's my sister, I should help her out, or at least consider it, because family should support each other. I told her straight up that I can't do that because my wedding is planned around that venue. Photographers, catering, decorations, and our whole schedule is locked in. Plus, my fiancé and I had to put down a non-refundable deposit that we would lose if we cancel or move dates. She didn't take it well. She got angry, said I was selfish and inconsiderate, and accused me of stealing the one thing that could save her wedding. My parents took her side initially, saying I should try to be flexible or consider changing dates or venues for the sake of family harmony. My fiancé backed me up, saying we can't uproot our plans at this late stage, and that my sister needs to find another solution. Since then, there have been a ton of family arguments. My sister said she's embarrassed and humiliated and now has no wedding. My parents are pressuring me to reconsider, claiming I'm destroying my sister's special day for being so rigid. Even some friends have messaged me privately suggesting I should help her out because it's the right thing to do. I honestly feel caught in the middle. I want my sister to have a beautiful wedding too, but it's not fair to expect me to sacrifice my own day. I also think my parents should understand that I'm not responsible for fixing their daughter's last-minute problem, especially when it could jeopardize my own plans. To clarify a few things, my sister's wedding was scheduled before mine, but much earlier, like 3 months before mine. She didn't tell me about the venue issue until just 2 weeks ago, even though she knew about the double booking weeks earlier. My fiancé and I have paid almost half the total venue cost already. Changing dates at my venue isn't possible due to how booked it is. I offered to help her look for other venues and offered to lend her some decorations and vendors if she needed them, but that wasn't enough. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to give my wedding venue to my sister after she canceled hers at the last minute and expected me to just hand mine over? Or should I just suck it up and be the bigger person here? Edit. Since some are asking about the possibility of switching dates or times, the venue has a strict policy about the dates and cannot reschedule. Also, my fiancé and I both work full-time and have limited vacation days. Changing the date would be a massive hassle. Edit 2. Some asked about whether I offered a compromise. We did discuss possibly renting the venue on a different date or time for her event, but again, the venue is fully booked for her wedding month, so that's a no-go. I'm honestly drained by all this drama and would appreciate your honest take. Thanks in advance. AITA for refusing to host my brother's wedding after he disrespected my boundaries and ruined my family gathering. My brother, Jason, and I have always had a complicated relationship. We grew up close, but drifted apart in adulthood. Our family is pretty tight-knit overall, but Jason and I have had our share of conflicts, mostly around respect and boundaries. He's the type of person who often makes everything about him, and it's caused a lot of tension over the years. Last year, Jason got engaged to his long-term girlfriend, Emily. They've been together for about 4 years, and everyone was happy for them. When they announced their wedding plans, they said it would be a small, intimate ceremony. At the time, I thought it was great, less stress for everyone involved. A couple of months ago, Jason approached me and asked if we could host the wedding reception at my house. I live in a suburban neighborhood with a decent-sized backyard, and I often host family events there. My house is pretty much the default spot for family get-togethers because it's comfortable and everyone knows the area well. I was initially hesitant, but didn't want to say no outright, so asked Jason for details. He said it would be about 50 people, mostly family and close friends, and that they'd have a catered dinner with some dancing. He assured me it wouldn't be too loud or disruptive. I told him I would consider it, but I needed to check with my spouse and also make sure the timing worked with our schedules. Here's where things got complicated. My spouse, Sam, is very particular about hosting big events at our house, especially during the summer. We have a quiet neighborhood, and loud parties have caused issues in the past. Sam also works from home, and the thought of having a big party with strangers and loud music made him uncomfortable. I told Jason all this, explaining that while I loved him and wanted to help, I wasn't sure it was the right venue. Jason wasn't happy. He said he understood, but then dropped a bombshell. Emily's parents were pushing for a fancy venue with a big price tag, and since we had a nice backyard, it made the most sense financially to have a reception at our place. He basically made it sound like hosting was the family duty I was expected to fulfill. I tried to explain again that it wasn't just about money, but about our comfort and the neighborhood's noise rules. I suggested some alternative venues nearby that were affordable and still cozy. Jason brushed off my suggestions and said he'd rather have it at our house because it felt more personal and meaningful. Feeling cornered, I reluctantly agreed to host, but set clear ground rules. The party must end by 10 p.m., no amplified music outside. Guests must park in designated areas to avoid blocking neighbors, and I would handle all communications with the caterers and decorators to ensure no disruptions. 2 weeks before the wedding, Jason came over with Emily to finalize plans. They showed up with a list of demands: a live band, fireworks, a cocktail bar, and a DJ setup that would last until midnight. They also wanted to rent a photo booth and set up large tents in the yard. I told them all of that was non-negotiable, reiterating our neighborhood's noise ordinances and the fact that Sam would be working that weekend. Jason snapped and said I was being selfish and ruining their special day. He accused me of not supporting him and Emily. I stood my ground and told them if they wanted a party like that, they needed a different venue. I said hosting a quiet, respectful gathering was one thing, but this was beyond what we could handle without causing issues. Jason left furious, and I thought that was the end of it. But the next day, he sent a group text to my extended family saying I was refusing to host his wedding and accusing me of being unreasonable and controlling. He framed the situation as me deliberately trying to sabotage their big day. At this point, I started getting calls and messages from relatives, some supporting Jason, others asking for my side. The family is split, and it's become this huge drama. I've told Jason I won't host the wedding if they can't respect our boundaries and understand the impact it would have on our home and neighbors. I even offered to help with planning at another venue, but he refuses. The wedding is coming up soon, and now it looks like they might have to scramble to find a place last minute. I'm starting to question if I'm in the wrong here. Should I just give in and let them do what they want, even if it means disrespecting my spouse and my home? Or am I justified in standing firm on this? AITA for refusing to host my brother's wedding after he disrespected my boundaries and turned it into a family drama? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of the guest list. This is a long one, so bear with me. I, 32F, have a complicated relationship with my sister, 29F. Let's call her Sarah, and the drama surrounding her wedding has reached a boiling point. I want to know if I'm the asshole here, because honestly, I feel justified, but family says otherwise. A bit of background first. Sarah and I grew up pretty close, but as adults, our paths have diverged a lot. She's always been the more traditional, family-focused type, very close with our parents and her fiancé's family. I'm more independent and have always questioned some of the family dynamics, especially when it comes to favoritism and exclusion. Sarah got engaged about a year ago to a guy named Mark. Mark is a decent guy, but his family has some quirks that have caused tension in the past. What matters most here is the guest list. Sarah and Mark decided to have a wedding of about 100 people, but with a very strict division. Their families on one side, friends on the other. No mingling, no crossover. Guests had to choose a side and stick to it. It sounded weird to me, but I didn't push too hard. Now here's where it gets complicated. Sarah and Mark's families have a few people who have caused problems in the past. For example, Mark's cousin Dave has a history of being very rude and judgmental. And there's a cousin on Sarah's side, Tina, who once spread nasty rumors about me that really hurt me emotionally for months. I tried to forgive, but never forgot. When the invites came out, I noticed Sarah had invited Tina, her mother, and a few other family members I've had very bad experiences with. At the same time, my closest friends, who have been part of my life for years, were either not invited or put on a friends-only side that didn't mix with family. I was okay with not having all my friends there, but what bothered me was the fact that people like Tina were getting a front row seat while my genuine support system was being sidelined or ignored. I tried talking to Sarah about it, gently at first, asking why certain people were invited who had caused me harm, and why she wasn't considering the feelings of those close to me. She got defensive, saying this was her day and her decision, and that I needed to let go of old grudges. She accused me of holding a grudge and trying to control her wedding. The day before the wedding, I found out that Tina and her mother were going to be seated at the head table, right next to Sarah and Mark, while my parents and I were pushed to a corner table in the back. That felt like a huge insult, especially given the history. I told Sarah I wasn't coming. She called me selfish and said I was ruining the family. My parents are torn. They understand why I'm hurt, but also feel I should go for Sarah's sake. Friends have told me to just suck it up and attend, but honestly, I feel like going would be betraying myself and validating the people who have hurt me. My sister's wedding is tomorrow, and I haven't spoken to her since I told her I wouldn't attend. Family gatherings have become tense, and everyone is asking me to reconsider. But I keep thinking about how I would feel sitting at a table with people who have been toxic to me, while the people who actually support me are ignored or sidelined. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of the guest list? Or is it fair for me to stand my ground when I feel deeply disrespected and hurt? AITA for refusing to take my sister's wedding photos, even though I'm a professional photographer? I, 32M, am a professional photographer specializing in weddings and portraits. Photography has been my passion and career for about 10 years now. I love what I do and have developed a reputation in my city for capturing beautiful, authentic moments. Over the years, I've shot dozens of weddings, and every time I put my heart and soul into making those memories perfect. My younger sister, Emily, 28F, got engaged about 8 months ago. She's always been close with me, and I've always been supportive of her. When she announced her engagement, I was genuinely happy for her. A few days after the engagement party, she called me and asked if I would be willing to photograph her wedding. She said she didn't want to hire anyone else because she trusted me, and she believed my style was exactly what she wanted. At first, I felt honored, but then she dropped a bombshell. She wanted me to do it for free. She explained that her fiancé's family was paying for the wedding, and they had a tight budget. She insisted it would mean a lot to her if I did this as a gift. She said, "I know you're a professional, but please just think of it as a family favor." I hesitated. Photography is my livelihood. Weddings are high-stress, high-responsibility jobs, and they require a lot of time, energy, and emotional investment. I told her that I would love to be part of the day and that I wanted to support her, but I couldn't work for free. She got upset and said I was being selfish and that family should support each other. We went back and forth for a few days. I tried to explain that while I love her, my photography career is how I pay my bills. Doing a wedding for free, especially one as big as hers, she's planning for around 150 guests, would mean I'd be working a full day without compensation, plus all the editing that takes many more hours. I even offered to give her a discount instead of doing it for free, but she rejected that too, saying she couldn't afford it. Things got tense. She started avoiding me and venting to our family about how I don't care about her wedding and that he's supposed to be my brother, but he's just in it for the money. Some family members sided with her and suggested I should just do it as a favor because it's my sister's wedding. Meanwhile, I offered to recommend some other photographers who could fit their budget, but Emily said she didn't want to settle for anyone else. She said no one else could capture the day like I could, and that if I wouldn't do it for free, then she'd just have to settle for a less ideal photographer. The wedding date is about 2 months away now, and we still haven't resolved this. I told her that if she really wanted me involved, I would come and take some casual photos during the reception or group shots, which wouldn't require a full-day commitment. But she said that's not what she wants, and that it feels like I'm just trying to avoid helping her. Honestly, I'm torn. I want to be there for my sister, but I also need to respect my professional boundaries. I don't want to lose my sister or alienate the family over this, but I also can't afford to work for free, especially for a big wedding that requires a lot of preparation and post-production. So, AITA for refusing to photograph my sister's wedding for free? Should I just suck it up for family, or am I justified in standing my ground? AITA for refusing to give my sister access to my late mother's house after she abandoned it for years and then suddenly wanted to come back. This is a long one, so bear with me. My 38F mother passed away about 2 years ago. For context, my sister, 42F, and I were always close, but as adults, our relationship became strained mainly due to her choices and how she treated Mom. Mom had a modest but lovely house in a quiet neighborhood that she had owned for about 25 years. When she got sick about 4 years ago, my sister completely disappeared from the picture and stopped answering calls or visiting. Mom was very upset and hurt by this, but never pushed her. I was the only one who stayed close, checked on her regularly, and helped with errands. When Mom died, her will left the house to both my sister and me equally. I was honestly surprised by this because I thought my sister would have been cut out due to her long absence and neglect. But Mom had clearly still loved her and hoped maybe she would come around. After the funeral, my sister showed up out of nowhere. She'd been living overseas and apparently decided to move back for good now that Mom was gone. She wanted to sell the house and split the proceeds. I agreed to that idea initially because I figured we could just make this clean and move on. But then she dropped a bomb on me. She said she wanted to move into the house while we figured out the sale and get things in order. I was hesitant because the house was where I had spent a lot of time with Mom in her last days, and I still felt a strong connection to it. Also, I was living in the city about an hour away, and she had been out of the country, so I wasn't sure she was ready to jump back into this part of her life. But I reluctantly agreed, and she moved in about 3 months ago. Initially, things seemed okay, but then she started making changes that felt like she was erasing Mom's memory. She got rid of a lot of Mom's things without telling me, redecorated rooms with things that clashed with the house's character, and even changed the locks without telling me. When I confronted her, she said she was the one living there and had the right since she was taking care of the house now. I felt blindsided and hurt. I asked her to reconsider and let me have access to, but she refused and said if I wasn't happy, I could just sell my half and be done with it. That hurt even more because I had no interest in selling immediately. I just wanted to preserve the house and keep Mom's legacy alive for as long as possible. I've since found out from neighbors and old family friends that my sister had completely abandoned the house for years before Mom died. She left it empty, stopped paying attention to any upkeep, and never visited. The house was falling into disrepair when Mom was sick, and I had been the one calling contractors, paying bills, and handling maintenance. I confronted her again, telling her this wasn't just some investment property to be flipped, but a place filled with memories and love. I asked her to respect that. She dismissed me, saying I was being overly sentimental and that the house was a liability, not a shrine. I've reached a point where I'm considering legal action to get my access restored or possibly buy her out, but I worry that I'm being unreasonable or holding on to something that maybe I should let go of. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister have exclusive control over the house Mom left us and wanting to keep my connection to it alive. Am I being selfish for not wanting to just sell it and move on? Thanks for reading. AITA for refusing to take my sister's kids on a trip, even though she insists I'm being selfish. I, 32F, have always been the responsible one in my family. I live alone, work a stable job in marketing, and, for the most part, keep my life pretty low-key. My sister, 29F, on the other hand, is very different. She's a single mom to 2 kids, age 5 and 7, and has had a rocky few years after a messy divorce. Since then, she's leaned heavily on me for help, emotionally and practically. I've helped with babysitting, picking them up from school, and sometimes even contributed financially when she was really struggling. I've never minded lending a hand, but lately, things have started to feel a bit overwhelming. The story really starts last month when my sister asked if I would take her kids on a week-long trip. She explained that she had the chance to go on a work retreat overseas, and it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but she couldn't take the kids with her. She asked if I could look after them for the entire week. I was taken aback because she gave me almost zero notice, and while I'm close with the kids, I wasn't sure I was ready to be full-time caregiver for that long. I work a demanding job, and even though I'm single and don't have kids of my own, that doesn't mean my life is free of responsibilities. When I told her I was hesitant because I had work and couldn't rearrange everything on such short notice, she got upset and accused me of being selfish. She said I was her only family who could help and that I was making her situation harder by refusing. I tried explaining that I wasn't refusing because I didn't want to help her, but that I simply couldn't drop everything and watch 2 young kids full-time for a week, especially without prior notice. I suggested maybe hiring a babysitter or asking her friends or neighbors for help, but she said she didn't trust anyone else with her kids except me. I also asked if she could maybe shorten her trip or find some other arrangements, but she was adamant that this trip was crucial for her career and she couldn't pass it up. It felt like she was putting all the pressure on me, like I was the only solution to her problem. She mentioned several times how difficult things have been for her since the divorce and how she really needed this break. But that didn't change the fact that I had my own life and commitments. My parents are out of the picture. They're elderly and not in good health, so she doesn't have many options besides me. Our other relatives are either too far away or unwilling to help. I felt really stuck because I didn't want to hurt my sister or the kids, but at the same time, I couldn't see how I could manage this without it completely disrupting my own life. I'm not used to feeling this trapped by family obligations, and it's been causing me a lot of stress. After I firmly said no, my sister got very angry and said I was being unreasonable and selfish. She accused me of not caring about her struggles or her kids, and she even hinted that maybe our relationship wasn't as close as I thought it was. She told me that I owed her this, given all the time she had helped me in the past, which I acknowledge but don't think should translate into a full week of childcare at a moment's notice. She said she felt abandoned and that I was making things worse for everyone. This whole situation has caused a huge rift between us. I offered to help in other ways, like babysitting on weekends or taking the kids for a day here or there, but she said that wasn't enough. She wanted a full week of my time, and I just can't give that. I've been feeling guilty because I know she's struggling, but also resentful because it feels like she's using me and not respecting my boundaries. My friends and coworkers have been divided on this. Some say I should just suck it up and help my sister because family comes first, especially since she's going through a tough time. Others say I'm right to protect my own mental health and time, and that it's unfair for her to expect me to drop everything with no notice. I really want to do the right thing, but I also don't want to be taken advantage of or lose my own stability. So, AITA for refusing to take my sister's kids on this trip and setting firm boundaries, even though it upsets her? Or should I just put her needs before my own and make this sacrifice? AITA for refusing to give my sister's wedding a huge cash gift after she guilt-tripped me over it? So, this is a long one, and it involves family drama, money, and a wedding that has turned my relationship with my sister upside down. A little background. I, 32F, have a younger sister, 28F. Let's call her Emily. We've always had a complicated relationship. Not exactly close, but not enemies either. We grew up in a middle-class household, so money was always tight, but never something that stopped us from living comfortably. Emily has always been the golden child in the family, the one who seemed to get more attention, praise, and sometimes more help financially from our parents. I've always been the more independent one, working hard to pay my own way through college and my early adult life. Emily, on the other hand, had a more erratic career path, a few jobs here and there, some unemployment stints, and a few personal setbacks. Our parents helped her out with rent and bills occasionally, which I never begrudged because everyone needs help sometimes. Fast forward to last year. Emily got engaged to her boyfriend, Mark. I was happy for her. The couple has been together for a few years and seemed genuinely in love. When she told me about the wedding plans, she mentioned it would be a big event, and I was excited to be part of it. Now here's where things start to get sticky. About 6 months before the wedding, Emily called me. She was casually dropping hints about how much weddings cost, how expensive it is to host a large event, and how family was expected to contribute generously to help cover some of the costs. She said, "Everyone is giving thousands, and I'm hoping you can help out too." I was taken aback. I don't come from a culture where family gives large cash gifts at weddings, and to be honest, I wasn't in the best financial shape myself at the time. I had just moved into a new apartment, was paying off some student loans, and had no big savings. I told her I was planning to give a gift, but it would be a modest one, something thoughtful but not thousands of dollars. Emily's tone changed on the call. She started to guilt-trip me, saying things like, "I thought you'd be happy for me and want to support me. I'm disappointed that you're not willing to help out more. You're my sister. Shouldn't that matter?" I tried to explain my situation, but she didn't want to hear it. Over the next few weeks, she sent a few messages, some quite passive-aggressive, about how family should stick together and how I was letting her down. At this point, I felt uncomfortable and pressured, so I decided to step back and focus on what I could reasonably afford. A month before the wedding, I sent Emily a handmade photo album I'd put together with pictures of us growing up and some nice notes. It was personal and heartfelt, something I thought would mean more than money. She responded with a short, "Thanks," and then the topic went cold. The wedding day came, and I was there, dressed nicely, ready to celebrate. The ceremony was beautiful, and I congratulated her sincerely. At the reception, I overheard some relatives talking about how much everyone had contributed financially, and I realized that my modest gift was likely the smallest. A few days later, Emily texted me, saying she felt hurt that I hadn't given more money and that it made her question how much I cared. I was shocked and hurt in return because I had done what I thought was meaningful. Things escalated when our parents got involved. They sided with Emily, saying that family should be generous, and suggested I should make it right by sending a bigger gift or at least apologizing. I explained again that I had given what I could, and that I don't believe love and support should be measured in cash. My parents said I was being stubborn and selfish, and Emily unfriended me on social media. Now, months later, we're barely speaking, and the whole family dynamic is tense. I'm wondering, AITA here? Was I wrong not to give a large cash gift for the wedding, especially when my sister made it clear it was expected? Or was I justified in setting my financial boundaries and giving a personal gift instead? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior and being labeled the bad sibling by my family. I, 32F, have always been close with my sister, Emma, 30F. We grew up in a fairly tight-knit family and shared a lot, but things have been getting complicated since she got engaged to her fiancé, Mark, 35M. I feel like I'm stuck in the middle of a situation where everyone is accusing me of being unreasonable, but I genuinely think I'm in the right here. Let me start from the beginning. Emma met Mark about a year and a half ago. At first, I was happy for her because she hadn't been in a serious relationship for a while, and I thought Mark seemed decent enough. He was charming on the surface, friendly, and seemed like a good match. But after a few months, I started noticing little things that didn't sit right with me. Mark can be extremely controlling. It started with small stuff. Emma stopped hanging out with some of her close friends, including me, as much as she used to. She would cancel plans last minute and seem to tiptoe around him, always watching her words. I voiced my concerns gently once or twice, but Emma brushed it off, saying Mark just wants to spend more time with her and that I was being paranoid. The turning point was last Thanksgiving. We had a family dinner at my parents' house, and Mark was there. He spent most of the evening subtly belittling my sister in front of the family, mocking her cooking, questioning her choices in a condescending tone, and making passive-aggressive comments about her job and lifestyle. Emma didn't defend herself and seemed resigned. I pulled Mark aside later to tell him that his behavior was unacceptable, but he just smirked and said I was overstepping. Emma told me afterward that I embarrassed her and that Mark was just joking. Since then, Mark's behavior has gotten worse. Emma has completely stopped coming to family events, saying that Mark doesn't like her old life and she wants to focus on building a future with him. At a recent family dinner where Mark was invited, he openly criticized my parents' political views and made rude jokes about their lifestyle. My parents were uncomfortable but tried to be polite. When I confronted Emma about how toxic Mark seemed, she accused me of trying to sabotage her relationship and said I was jealous and bitter. A few weeks ago, Emma announced her wedding date. It's in a few months, and we were supposed to be involved in the planning. I was excited at first, but started getting more anxious as the reality set in. Mark insisted on controlling every detail, including excluding my input on the guest list. He demanded that some family members who he disliked not be invited, including a few cousins who were close to Emma and me. I told Emma that I thought this was unfair and that Mark's behavior was alienating the people who cared about her. She said I was being difficult and needed to accept that Mark was part of her life now. Last week, I was informed that Mark explicitly requested I not attend the wedding. Emma relayed the message, but said it was her decision to support Mark. I tried to explain that I couldn't attend a celebration where I was unwelcome and that I didn't feel comfortable around someone who treated my family and sister the way Mark did. Emma accused me of being selfish and said I was tearing the family apart. I reached out to my parents and other siblings, hoping for support or at least some understanding. Instead, I was met with frustration and told that I should get over my issues and put Emma's happiness first. My mother said I was being dramatic and that Emma loved Mark and I needed to respect that. My dad told me I was making a big deal out of nothing and should stop causing tension. I haven't talked to Emma much since the invitation fallout, and the rest of the family is pressuring me to attend the wedding to keep the peace. I feel hurt and confused because I want my sister to be happy, but I don't think her happiness comes from enduring disrespect and toxic behavior. I'm not sure if I'm the asshole for standing my ground and refusing to attend a wedding where I'm not wanted, or if I'm just making the situation worse. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior, even though it's causing family drama. AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé plan our family holiday, even though she's the only one who offered to organize it. So this all started a couple of months ago when my brother, Matt, got engaged to his girlfriend, Lisa. Matt and I have always been close, even though we're 6 years apart. We come from a pretty traditional family. Our parents are pretty hands-on and have strong opinions about how family stuff should go. For years, family holidays were a big deal, and our parents were the main organizers. But last year, due to some health issues, Mom stepped back and told us siblings to take over planning the annual summer trip. I'm 29, and Matt is 35. We have a younger sister, Sophie, who's 24. Sophie is usually pretty chill about these things, but tends to go along with whatever the rest of us decide. Matt and I have done the holiday planning a couple of times now, and it's always been a group effort. We usually pick a location, look at dates, sort out accommodation, and then everyone chips in. It's chaotic, but it works. Fast forward to this year, Matt and Lisa said they wanted to take the lead on planning the holiday. Lisa is new to the family dynamic, but has made a big impression with her energy and organizational skills. The rest of us, me, Sophie, and our parents, were happy to let them do it because we were busy with work and other commitments. Here's where the trouble started. Matt and Lisa started making decisions without really consulting anyone. They booked a fancy beach resort that's way out of the budget we usually stick to, and they picked dates that don't work for some of the family, including me. I asked if we could adjust the dates or location to include everyone, but Lisa said, "We've already put down deposits, so we're set." She also insisted on a strict itinerary with planned activities every day, which is a big change from our usual relaxed vibe. I was annoyed but decided to give it a chance. Then, Sophie told me she was upset because Lisa never asked for her input and kept pushing her to do tasks that Sophie wasn't comfortable with, like organizing group photos and managing payments. Sophie also mentioned that Lisa talked down to her a few times, which Sophie found disrespectful. The biggest issue, though, came when I tried to bring up my concerns to Matt. I told him I was uncomfortable with the dates and that the budget was too high. Matt told me that Lisa had worked hard to put this together and that if I didn't want to come, that was on me. He said that since they were engaged, Lisa's opinions should carry more weight, and he expected the rest of us to get on board. This really hurt. I felt like Matt was choosing Lisa over his own family, and it felt like Lisa was taking over the family in a way that wasn't respectful to the rest of us. I decided to talk to our parents, hoping they could mediate. They agreed that the budget and dates were problematic, but said it was hard to argue because Lisa had put so much effort in. Eventually, I told Matt I wasn't going to this holiday because it felt like I wasn't wanted or considered. This caused a huge argument. Matt accused me of being selfish and ruining the family dynamic. Lisa unfollowed me on social media and stopped talking to me altogether. Our parents are now caught in the middle, and Sophie is upset because she doesn't want to pick sides. The rest of the family is divided, with some saying I should have gone along with the plan since Lisa was just trying to help, and others saying Matt and Lisa were too controlling and dismissive. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to participate in a family holiday that Lisa planned without consulting the rest of us, even though she was the only one who volunteered to organize it. Was I out of line for standing up for myself and choosing not to go? Or should I have swallowed my pride and tried harder to make it work? AITA for refusing to invite my sister to my wedding because she brought her boyfriend to my parents' house without telling anyone and then left him there for 3 days? So, here's a long story with some family drama. I, 28F, have been engaged to my fiancé, Mark, 30M, for about a year. We are planning our wedding for next spring, and I'm honestly really excited, but there's one big issue hanging over everything. My sister, Laura, 26F. Laura and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, we fought like cats and dogs, but as adults, we've tried to be civil. She lives in a different city, about a 3-hour drive away, and visits maybe once or twice a year. Usually, those visits are planned with my parents because they like to host family dinners and get-togethers. Now, here's where it gets messy. A few months ago, Laura started dating this guy, Jason, whom we had never met before. She never really talked much about him, just kind of mentioned she was seeing someone new. My parents had never met Jason either. One weekend, my parents had a casual family dinner planned, and Laura decided to show up with Jason without telling anyone beforehand. It was a surprise. My parents were caught off guard, as were Mark and I, because we had come to visit that day. Laura just breezed in with Jason, acting like it was totally normal. But that's not even the worst part. After dinner, Laura said she had to leave, but she couldn't take Jason with her because he had a work thing in her city the next day and didn't want to drive back late at night. So she left him at my parents' house. My parents weren't thrilled, but didn't say much because they didn't want to cause a scene. The thing is, Laura never asked if it was okay to leave Jason there. She just left him, basically dumping him on my parents' couch for 3 days. Meanwhile, Laura left town for a trip with friends and didn't come back until almost the end of the week. My parents had to feed Jason, entertain him, and generally keep him around for those 3 days with no warning or discussion. Mark and I were visiting again during those days and were blindsided by Jason's presence. Jason didn't know anyone other than my parents, and no one really talked to him except out of politeness. He was awkward and honestly a little creepy in how he kept trying to talk about personal stuff and kept dropping subtle digs about how we don't do family right. It was uncomfortable. When Laura finally came back, she acted like nothing was wrong and was surprised that we were upset about the whole situation. She said, "It's not a big deal. He needed a place to crash, and my parents were fine with it." Well, my parents weren't exactly fine. They told me later that they felt disrespected and used. My mom said they felt like they were being babysitters for a stranger without consent. I confronted Laura about it, saying it was disrespectful to drop a random person on my parents without asking and that she should have at least communicated with everyone involved. She shrugged it off and said, "You're making a big deal out of nothing." Now, the problem is that this incident has seriously affected our family dynamic. Mark and I are getting married soon, and I was making a guest list when I realized I didn't want to invite Laura, or Jason for that matter. Laura has never been reliable or considerate, and this just felt like the final straw. I told my parents and Mark that I was planning to exclude Laura and Jason from the wedding, explaining why. My parents were shocked and told me that I was being harsh and that family should be included despite flaws. Mark supports me, but worries about the family fallout. Laura found out through one of our relatives that she's not invited and called me, furious. She accused me of being petty and said that it's her right to be there and that I'm punishing her for no reason. She also said that if she's not invited, she won't speak to any of us anymore. I am stuck. On one hand, I don't want to invite someone who disrespects my family and then acts like it's no big deal. On the other hand, it's a wedding, a big family event, and I worry about how excluding her will affect my relationship with my parents and other family members. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to invite my sister and her boyfriend to my wedding because she dropped him on my parents for 3 days without telling anyone? Or am I overreacting and should just let it go for the sake of family? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.